What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? I'm Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're gonna be talking about New Mutants, number 24 by Vita Ayala and Danilo Beirut. And in this video, we're gonna talk about the aftermath of the conflict between the New Mutants, the Lost Club, and the Shadow King, and how Vita Ayala is addressing some of Krakoa's greatest failings, and whether or not the Shadow King's host, Amal Farouk, can be redeemed. We're gonna talk about all this and more right now, but first, if you wanna see more awesome videos like this one, hit that subscribe button. I post multiple videos throughout the week, plus live stream the Blerd Cave every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So hit that bell button, that way you don't miss anything. Also, if you enjoy the video, Hulk smash that like button. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about New Mutants, number 24.
You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Okay, so when we dig into this issue of New Mutants, this entire issue pretty much hangs on the premise of particular aspects of acceptance, grief, embracing change, and redemption. Probably the thing that's gonna stick out to a lot of people. They have addressed the issue with Cosmar and No Girl, both characters who in their debut, especially in the case of No Girl, are characters who basically have never had any agency in and of themselves, especially in regards to their powers. In the case of No Girl, more specifically, her appearance has nothing to do with her powers in the same way that it does for Cosmar. Cosmar's deformity is a direct result of not having control of her mutant capabilities to, for all intents and purposes, warp reality through her dreams. She had no control over this, and this is why she has the warped appearance that we constantly see her with. But in the case of No Girl, her look is not the result of her powers. Her physical body was literally taken from her by the human. As a matter of fact, when we're first introduced to No Girl in Grant Morrison's new X-Men number 118 in 2001, she already lacks a body. We've never actually seen what she physically looks like. Not to mention her name, No Girl, is kind of, I don't know, it's one of those weird Grant Morrisonisms. And I'm kind of glad that Vita Ayala is taking the time in this comic to address it. We've technically seen what No Girl looks like in the previous issue of New Mutants number 23 when they were in the astral plane. So the versions of themselves that we were seeing in the astral plane are basically like mental self-image. This is how they perceive themselves. And that's exactly what Krakoa is gonna do for No Girl. No Girl is gonna take this opportunity to be No Girl no longer. She is gonna take up a new name, a name that actually better fits her superpower and her newfound agency. From this day forward, her name is Cerebella. And the look and the new body that she now has, because once again, she didn't participate in the Crucible, the Quiet Council is not forcing her to go through some barbaric ritual just to obtain a new body. They've created a new body for her and simply transferred her mind to it, allowing her to be the person who she truly is meant to be. And in the case of a character like Cosmar, well, Cosmar's case is a little more complex. They're not gonna make her go through the Crucible either just to get what they want. They have a mutant on deck by way of the Morlock mask who can basically make people look like however they want to look, however they're able to make them look. And even Mask is taking this opportunity to basically say, yeah, there's a lot that we can work with. We can bring the real true you to the surface. Now, we're not going to be able to completely 100% fix everything. It's going to take time. It's not going to be something we could do in a one and done situation. We're going to have to keep constantly coming back and doing this. And in a way, and I know some people are going to get upset when I say this, they're like,
it's woke. This part I had to close my eyes on. Wasn't ready for that. So it was woke.
No, what it is that this, in a lot of ways, kind of mirrors the same process that trans people go through when they are transitioning from one gender to another. It's not something that just, like, and I know a lot of people think that this is the case, it's not something that just, oh, well, snip, snip, boom, boom, here goes, my gender's changed. That's not how transitioning works. There's a reason why it's called transitioning. It takes time, and that's kind of what's happening here, only in this case, Cosmar is not swapping her gender, she's simply trying to get get her body back to the way that it used to be. And don't get me wrong, Cosmar is terrified of this change, but that's the thing about change. Change is difficult and change is scary, and not just for the people who are experiencing the changes around them, but also for the people going through those same changes. Now, I don't know if she'll ever actually, completely fully regain her original, more human looking appearance. I think that they're gonna probably wind up sticking with the way she looked when she was in the astral plane, but maybe a more streamlined version of it. And as we see later in the comic, it's exactly that. She has still the purple skin, and she doesn't necessarily look as monstrous as she did before. They even kind of dialed down the weird kind of fish eye deal that she had going on, and that was something that she even still had in the astral plane. So that's a deal. That's a big deal here. They're actually fixing a lot of these things. Another thing that they're actually taking care of is acceptance and forgiveness and recognizing your own failings in the case of the character Mirage, who even admits to both Wolfsbane as well as Cosmar that she has failed both of them. In the case of Cosmar, not listening, not accepting what Cosmar's journey was, not recognizing that their journeys are not the same, that there's more than one way for them to go, and that maybe instead of just dishing out answers right away and trying to just automatically say the right thing at the right time, it's better that she just sit back and listen, something that she wishes that she'd done in the case of Wolfsbane, who right now Wolfsbane is dealing with also accepting the fact that she made a mistake, working with the Shadow King, who for all intents and purposes used her grief over the loss of her son Tyr to drive her to do terrible things, to do things that would ultimately lead to the Lost Club falling into the Shadow King's clutches, and one of them even being killed for it. And that's the character Scout. Wolfsbane is trying to accept as well, and there's a moment here where, and I know once again some people are probably gonna get in their feelings about this as well. I don't know, it's weird that in 2022 people can't stand the sight of two women having this close of a connection, but Mirage and Wolfsbane, and maybe, I don't know if this is Vita Ayala kind of channeling some of the energy from the live action New Mutants film, but in that movie both Mirage and Wolfsbane were in a relationship. Now in the comics it's been a little more nebulous. Their connection has always kind of come off as being just really good friends, but it kind of seems like Vita Ayala is ready to explore that particular aspect of their relationship, and I'm kind of interested to see where this is going to go, if they're actually going to go that route finally. This is something that's kind of been in the works for a long time. It's kind of been on the periphery for quite some time, so it's interesting to see where they're going to go with it. Speaking of budding romances on Krakoa, we also have Karma, who is going through a little bit of a relationship of her own. Some people might think that this is something that is literally just being thrown in out of nowhere in this issue. It's actually not. The character that we see Karma kissing in this issue is actually a character that Vita Ayala created for last year's Marvel's Voices Pride #1. This is actually a character by the name of Galura. You might easily look at her and think that, oh, she's basically Angel, which, yeah, I mean, I guess, kinda. She has wings, just like Angel, but unlike Angel, she can actually generate and manipulate the currents of wind, so she can use that ability to create tornadoes and, other such things. We haven't necessarily seen her do any of this yet, but Vita Ayala has confirmed this on Twitter that this is actually the case. But for those who are unfamiliar with the character, she is a mutant of Filipina descent, and during last year's Marvel Voices Pride #1, Karma and Galura met, and that is actually where they first shared an embrace. It was actually in a story that Vita Ayala penned in that issue. So don't think that they're just doing this out of nowhere. No, it's not really the case. This is something we've already seen before. But more specifically, I want to talk about just real quick with Wolfsbane, the fact that she recognizes her son may actually be out there somewhere, that he is still active somehow, even though she witnessed him die at the hands of Strong Guy back in X Factor number 256 in 2013. She is still reeling from that. She knows what she saw, but something out there is making her feel like he is still out there, that Cerebro is recognizing him as still being active somehow. So something tells me that Tyr is probably very likely alive. She just doesn't know where he is, and she feels like a bad mother because of this. But the thing is, what Mirage is trying to make her understand is that she is a good mother because she is feeling that he's out there, she's not losing hope, and that she's going to do whatever it takes to get him back. So it's a really interesting thing. I like what they're doing here, taking these characters and showing the emotional journeys that they're going through, and the emotional journeys aren't done yet. We also see in the case of Warpath, who was, yes, during the events of Trial of Magneto #5, seemed auspiciously absent when his brother James Proudstar, aka Thunderbird, was brought back for the first time. And I mean legitimately brought back. I don't mean like some kind of spirit form. I don't mean some kind of zombified version of him, but a character who has literally been dead since X-Men number 95, I believe. And that was back in 1975. This character's been woefully absent, and even since House of X, he's just kind of been a character who's been vaguely teased and hinted at, and now he's officially back. And it's interesting that, yeah, Warpath wasn't around to say, hey, welcome back to the world. And it's explained here that it was because he wanted to make sure that everything was ready for him when he came back. Now, deep down, and of course, obviously, Thunderbird recognizes this as well, that it's bullshit. But I think the thing is that Warpath didn't feel worthy of being able to have his brother back, because as he even says later, that he has failed him, that he has not upheld his brother's ideals the way that he felt he should. But the truth of the matter is that he is being too difficult on himself. He is trying to hold himself up to a level of ideals that I don't even think Thunderbird himself has ever actually been able to live up to. And this is a guy who literally sacrificed himself to save the world and his teammates. So once again, Warpath is just trying to hold too much on his shoulders. And we've even kind of seen this throughout the past pages of New Mutants, where Warpath is musing about the things that are going on in his head. He's been having some really serious bouts with grief and doubt and mental health in general. And now Thunderbird is actually back to absolve him, to actually be there to physically say to him, you are enough. You're not a failure. You didn't have to avenge my death. You are not a disappointment to me. And this is kind of one of those situations where, if you are a person who has ever dealt with grief, maybe there were things left unsaid, things left undone, and someone in your life, you didn't get to tell them the things you wanted to tell them. You didn't get to do the things for them you felt you needed to do, or maybe in the wake of their passing, you didn't do or didn't get to say the things that needed to be said. This is one of the situations where Warpath has before him an opportunity that no one in the real world ever actually gets, and it's that he actually gets to see his loved one who has been gone, who he has lost, actually tell him the thing that he is afraid he would never hear again. And I don't know, it's one of the things that I really like this. I'm not gonna lie, I completely teared up when I read this scene. This scene is just, it's everything. It's everything. And I love what it represents. And once again, speaking of representation and all that sort of stuff, another thing we got to talk about here is redemption. Can villains truly be redeemed? Now, yes, I know characters like Magneto, once a villain and now no longer a villain. He's a hero. We know that other characters in the X-Men's corner of the Marvel Comics universe have also redeemed themselves. Characters like Apocalypse, who was once one of the X-Men's greatest foes, has now become one of its greatest elder statesmen. Apocalypse has proven that he is more than just some villain who spouts about the survival of the fittest. He's actually a deeper, more nuanced character than that. And while there are other villains who kind of have turned over a new leaf, we've seen other characters like Frenzy, Tempo, to point out a couple. Those characters have proven that they're more than just being henchmen or villains. They have proven that they are actually worthy of being called heroes. We get to pose that question twice in this issue, and one of these we're actually going to get an answer. Now, in the case of one of them, that is going to be the character of Amal Farouk. Will Amal Farouk be forgiven? Is he going to be able to be redeemed? Is he able to make up for all the grief, the torment, and just pain and suffering that he has caused the X-Men over the course of decades, literal, actual decades, since his first appearance in X-Men number 117 in 1978? Can he make up for everything he's tried to do, trying to take over people's bodies, actually taking over people's bodies, banishing people to the astral plane, crushing Charles Xavier's legs, trying to take over the world on multiple occasions? Can he make up for that? Well, the answer is not that simple. Wolfsbane offers him forgiveness. Right now, the New Mutants are prepared to usher Amal Farouk into a new era of his life. He has been under the thrall of the Shadow King for so long, and now he is no longer under the Shadow King's influence. He is his own man now, still complete with his mutant capabilities now that he can use them of his own free will and not at the whims of a Dark Lord. Now he can step up and be his own man. And right now, the New Mutants, regardless of how they feel about him, whether Wolfsbane Bane, or even Karma for that matter. Even outright says, I don't trust you, I don't forgive you, but I still hope you get what you deserve. This is basically her recognizing that Amal Farouk is not the villain, it's the Shadow King. But at the end of the day, those old wounds don't just go away. They don't just disappear, even though she knows, in all of her logic, she knows Amal Farouk is not the bad guy. He's not the villain. But still, he has the villain's face. Amal Farouk has been the face of the Shadow King for decades, and now that he's changed, now that he actually has an opportunity to be who he wants to be, she wants to stand by him and stand by the fact that he should be given a second chance. And what he's doing here is that he's about to join the Legion of X. This is the team that was teased at the end of the Way of X series and the Onslaught Aftermath. Legion of X is a series we won't see until, I believe it's going to be April 20th, so 420. That should be interesting. Besides, Spurrier is going to be back on the story for this, and we'll see the Shadow King alongside various other characters like Juggernaut, Dust, Pixie, Forget-Me-Not, Dr. Nemesis, Blindfold, and of course, Nightcrawler and Legion, and so on and so forth. But the Shadow King is going to be joining this team, which is going to make them even that much more interesting. The other part of redemption that we're going to talk about here very briefly is the redemption of Madeleine Pryor. Can she truly be redeemed? We see earlier this comic that Magic and Richter are going over how to fix Krakoa, that Krakoa is missing something, that it's missing some kind of way for people to actually cope and for people to work through their mental traumas and being able to communicate in ways that humans have never been able to. And one of the ideas that Magic has is maybe they should bring in somebody who knows a lot about having to deal with duality and PTSD and trying to learn who you truly are. And what Magic ends up thinking about is bringing on Madeleine Pryor, who we see earlier in this issue, she's hinted at and teased at multiple times, and very clearly Madeleine and Havoc are not in the best of places at this precise moment, but Magic is willing to give Madeleine Pryor a chance at redemption and to maybe help usher in the next generation of New Mutants. Now, what is this going to mean going forward? The easy answer would be that, especially like what we had in the case of the Shadow King, the easy answer is always, oh, well, she's up to something, she's got to be getting ready to turn bad or something like that. But I think Vito Ayala is a much better writer than that. I think that we're going to be witnessing, just like what we did with Amal Farouk and the Shadow King, we're going to be witnessing Madeleine Pryor fighting with some demons. And I don't mean literal demons, I mean metaphorical demons. I think she's going to be having some back and forth with herself about the future and what it's going to mean to become the best possible version of herself. And I'm really curious to see how all of that is going to play out here. It's going to be something very interesting. We'll definitely see Madeleine Pryor get probably some of the best character development she's gotten in quite some time. But anyways, let me know what you thought about New Mutants number 24. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.